Today, we're going to talk about an approach to psychology that isn't about endlessly digging through your past. Nope, this one is all about fully living in the present. We're diving into Gestalt therapy, which is a really powerful way to understand who we are, right here and right now. And to really get Gestalt, you've got to meet the guy who started it all, Fritz Perls. He was known as the enfant terrible, basically the terrible child of psychology. And trust me, this guy did not play by the rules. He challenged everything, and in doing so, he created this radical new way of looking at the human experience.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the rebel therapist himself. Then we'll explore the idea that you are a complete whole. Discover the incredible power of the present moment and see how we actually meet the world around us. We'll also learn how to let go of all those shoulds that hold us back. And finally, we'll wrap it all up in a simple 4-line philosophy.
So, let's kick things off with the man behind the method. Fritz Perls was a psychiatrist who just got fed up with the old ways of doing things. He felt that traditional psychoanalysis was way too focused on the past, on just endlessly analyzing the why of all our problems. He wanted something more immediate, something more alive.
And you can really see his thinking evolve over his lifetime. He was born way back in 1893, and he actually started out in psychoanalysis, but he pretty quickly became one of its biggest critics. He came to believe that the real work isn't in dissecting the past, but in experiencing the fullness of the present moment. And this idea drove him to develop and eventually publish the book that started it all.
So all that rebellious spirit led Perls to a really powerful core idea. It's the absolute foundation of his therapy, and it's actually where it gets its name.
The word Gestalt is German. It means whole or form. And the big idea here is that you are not just a collection of separate parts, like a mind, a body, emotions, and memories all rattling around. No, you are a single, organized whole, and that whole is way, way more than the sum of its individual pieces.
Now, this holistic view is totally different from how we're often taught to think about ourselves, right? We talk about a conflict between our mind and body, or we try to separate our thoughts from our feelings. Gestalt therapy says, nope, that's impossible. Everything is connected. You can't really understand one part of you without seeing how it fits into the complete picture.
So if we are a whole, how do we actually experience that wholeness? Well, according to Perls, you're not going to find the answer in the past or in the future. It's only in one place, the present moment.
But that brings up a really important question, doesn't it? If we're this integrated, whole person, how can we actually feel that? I mean, how do we find this sense of wholeness in our day-to-day lives?
The answer is so simple, it's actually pretty profound. It's through awareness. Just by paying attention to what's actually happening right here, right now. This is the main tool in the entire Gestalt therapy toolbox.
And awareness isn't some mystical, complicated thing. It's really just the practical act of noticing. What are you physically feeling right this second? What emotions are just kind of there? What thoughts are floating by? The real key here is the shift away from asking why I feel this way, which just leads to a bunch of analysis, and toward asking what am I feeling and how am I experiencing it. It's about making direct contact with your own existence. Now, of course, this whole aware self doesn't exist in a bubble. We are constantly interacting with our environment, with other people, with objects, with new ideas, and this whole process of interaction is what Gestalt calls contact.
Every single experience you have happens at what's called the contact boundary. And try not to think of it as a wall that separates you from the world. It's more like the very point of connection. It's where you meet not you. It's where you see, hear, touch, and feel. It's basically where all of life and all of our growth actually happens.
And this contact thing has a natural fluid rhythm called the cycle of experience. It's simple. First, a need arises. Let's say you're thirsty. Then you become aware of it. You mobilize your energy. You get up to get a glass of water. You make contact by drinking it, which leads to satisfaction. The need is met, the cycle is complete, and then you withdraw back to a state of rest until the next need emerges. It's just a healthy, moment-to-moment flow of life.
But what happens when that cycle gets broken? What if you have a need, but you just ignore it or suppress it? Or you never let yourself really feel satisfaction? Well, this leads to what Gestalt therapists call unfinished business.
Yeah, unfinished business is basically all the emotional baggage from the past that was never fully experienced or expressed. It's that lingering resentment, that grief you never really let out, the guilt you might still be carrying. This stuff doesn't just disappear, it sticks around, draining our energy and keeping us from being fully present in the here and now.
And one of the most common ways this unfinished business pops up is through what Perls famously called the tyranny of the should. You know that nagging inner voice, the one telling you all the things you should feel, should do, or should be?
Gestalt therapy suggests a really powerful shift in perspective here. The phrase, "I should," feels like an external demand, right? It creates all this pressure and resentment. But if you just change that one phrase to "I choose to," it completely transforms it into an authentic desire. This simple change creates ownership and empowerment, and it mobilizes your energy instead of draining it.
So all of these incredible concepts, wholeness, awareness, contact, personal responsibility, they are all perfectly summarized in a short piece written by Pearls. It's known as the Gestalt Prayer, but really, it's a philosophy for life and relationships.
Let's just let that sink in for a second. I do my thing and you do your thing. It's all about respecting our own individuality and the individuality of others. It's a declaration that authentic connection, it just can't be built on expectations or obligations. It happens when two whole, separate people choose to meet at that contact boundary authentically and freely.
And that really brings us to the final thought. Gestalt therapy is ultimately a practice of becoming more present in our own lives. So the question it leaves us with is a really personal one. What unfinished business, what unresolved feeling or unspoken word can you attend to today? Not to dwell on the past, but to free yourself to live more fully in the here and now.